What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show. We are back to our regularly scheduled program live here on Dsm Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channel. So if you guys are watching today, make sure to do us a quick favor. If you are watching on the Twitter channel specifically, we appreciate you. But if you're trying to comment, we can't see your comments through StreamYard. So make sure to check out the YouTube link specifically. It is the best spot to get your comments pulled up here on the screen with your host. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, like this video, whatever you got to do. Help us get to our goal of 200 subscribers here on the new channel by the end of the summer. I'm one half of your host this morning, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. And this is going to be a fun Wednesday show because we're going to be all over the place. Whatever you guys want to talk about, throw it in the comments. We'll get to it. Philly sports related, whatever. The Eagles report to training camp in 6 short days. We're not going to get into all of our camp battles and camp storylines, but some early storylines, some things we're looking at, some new players that we want to get into, some coordinators, everything like that, what we're excited for. The Phillies All-Stars shine amongst the other stars of the MLB last night in the MLB All-Star game. The AL did take that home 5-3 again, though they dominate almost every year, except when Rob Thompson is coaching and managing the National League team. And then, yes, this is the last little piece of stuff we're going to get into when it comes to the Sixers. Gary Trent Jr. signs a 1-year deal with the Milwaukee Bucks, joining Giannis and Dame. The Sixers do not get him. Terry Johnson, a.k.a. Campaign, signs with the New York Knicks on a 1-year deal. So
they're signing with all their up.
Well, where do the Sixers, where can they go from here to continue to fill out this roster? I believe they have 1 vet minimum left to hand out, assuming that Kyle Lowry is one of those contracts. So we can get into everything today, guys. Make sure to drop your comments, your thoughts, your questions, your topics into the comment section. But Scotty, what's going on, man? Happy Hump Day.
Yeah, happy Hump Day, man. Just getting the show shared out everywhere right now. But no, happy Hump Day, man. We got a lot to get into. A lot, going on in the middle of the summer. So we're going to have to get creative as these shows go on. But we got the Phillies coming back now after the All-Star break. So that'll give us plenty of action. As you mentioned, Eagles training camp. More and more stuff's going to come out about these teams and about what's going on in all of these camps. So we'll get to talk about all of that. We're even getting, clippings from the Giants on Hard Knocks. Yep. Some of those about Saquon are so interesting. He's like retweeting everything on Twitter that has to do with it. So he's having fun with it. Hassan Reddick question in the chat from Marshawn. Funny enough, I was looking at the top 10 edge rushers. I just was curious. And Hassan Reddick did not even make the top 10 edge rushers in the NFL. So, not saying that he's not a top 10 edge rusher. I'm not going to go and switch up on Hassan as soon as he leaves the team. I do think he's a top 10 edge rusher, but it's just interesting from the perspective of him wanting to be paid, right? Like he wants to be paid
as a top edge rusher, not top 10, as a top.
But that's what we talked about. Like, is he, the Aiden Hutchinsons of the world? Is he the TJ Watts? Like, he's not.
No.
But he's top 10. I'll give him that. He is top 10 for my money. But it was just interesting to see that kind of laid out there. But, yeah, man, a lot to get into in the middle of the summer here. But it's usually fun when we get into these topics. So I'm ready for it, man. Happy to have Twitter back as well. Live streaming on Twitter.
Seriously. Make sure, again, head on over to the YouTube channel, subscribe.
Yes, sir.
But with that said, we're going to get into a lot this summer. We're going to probably take some, if you guys are on TikTok scrolling, if you see those blind rankings of players, blind rankings of teams, we're going to do that shit all summer here on the show and just get into whatever as football season quickly approaches us. 50 days away, Scotty, until the NFL resumes.
Turf Talk's coming soon. We'll get to give our own rankings, right? Yep. That's the fun part for me, man, to see where each of us are at and compare them. So that's
less than that until college football starts, which I know Scotty's thinking about making a purchase of the new NCAA, the return of the college football game from EA.
I told Dylan, I got to pick a team, and that's what's going to get me invested into college football for real, watching it every weekend, watching it every Saturday. So if you have any suggestions out there, definitely let me know if there's any.
Well, no, here's what you do, right? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to purchase the game.
Yeah.
You're going to go to dynasty mode. You're going to randomize which team this falls on, and that's how you're going to build your dynasty, and that's the team you follow for this upcoming season.
That is fair. That is the best way to do it. I do agree with that, man. And that way I'm not, picking a bandwagon team. See, no. No. I will say they did get me interested a little bit more last season watching, just with all the hype around
they had
them.
me interested for all of 3 weeks or so, and then
they sucked. So I stopped. And so, nah. It's not going to be Colorado. No, I have no connections there. It's going to be something I have, like, some type of tie to, whether it's random or not. I'll figure it out. But
it's going to have, like, the Toledo. The new head coach of Toledo and take them back to the promised land. But, look, man, we could start wherever. Let's start with the All-Star game last night since that's the most recent inaction we have.
You want to talk about that, the national anthem the other night? Or we're going to –
Brother, listen. I didn't have it on. Like, I had switched channels, like, as they were doing some of the pregame stuff, because, like, I just wanted the home run derby to start. So I switched channels, and as I'm, like, going back to ESPN, my boy texts me. He's like, "Is this serious?" And I have no idea what he's talking about. Like, I'm waiting for him to, like, send a link or, like, Twitter post, thinking, like, oh, he's gonna, like, ask me a question. And then he doesn't say anything, so I turn it back on, and she's mid anthem.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh my God. And this is like where my mind went, like with how poor it was. This is terrible. I'm a terrible person. I thought they like did a good thing for a person that was in need of a good thing. If you get what I'm trying to say.
And then
that's how bad. When I turned it on, I went, "Oh my fucking God, what is happening right now?" And then she put, her post yesterday just knocks everything out of the park. Like she didn't give like this endearing post that she's dealing with these issues and she apologizes and she's going to go get help and better herself. She said, "I'm not going to lie to y'all. I was fucked up." Basically, like, yo, you don't care. That made it better.
It did. It honestly did, man. And it's funny because I thought the same. I was like, what are we doing here? I saw the response on Twitter. I was like, this isn't right. This girl, she might have some issues here.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Then you find out she's a 4-time Grammy nomination. So I'm just like, what the hell is going on here?
Man.
But that was a travesty, man. And now she's getting checked out into rehab, apparently.
That's what she says. I mean,
I don't know how serious that message was.
A notes page on her Instagram story and was like, "Sorry, y'all, I was drunk. I'm going to go to rehab now and hope you guys still listen to me when I get out." I don't know what the thought process was there, but I mean, again, not going to talk about her singing too much longer, but like, even if you're blacked out, if you're a 4-time Grammy nominee, I'm not sure you still sound that badly.
Sounds that bad, right?
Like you would think it would be more so like slurring of the words, the pace would be off, whatever. Like her voice was just fucked up.
Yeah,
like, it was just bad. So that was a great way, to start off All-Star Weekend. Alec Boehm performs in the home run derby, man.
Yes, sir, man.
And surprises a lot of people. I mean, Scotty, he was a swing away from going to the finals and facing off against Bobby Witt Jr. Like that was crazy to see. I thought, and how he started in round 1 was exactly what I thought he was going to do. A lot of ground balls, a lot of line drives. I think he had 3 or 4 home runs in like the first minute and like 20 seconds, 15 seconds. Called his timeout and then just figured out that rhythm, figured out a groove, and went on to get the number 1 seed heading into the second round. So shout out to Boehm for putting on a little bit of a show. And then last night they all put on a show, man. I just think, again, not putting too much stock into a third of an inning pitch by someone, 2/3 of an innings pitch by someone, 1 double by Bryce Harper. I'm not saying that, but it was refreshing to watch this team. We know they had 8 All-Stars. Obviously, Wheeler and Suarez were dealing with some stiffness or whatever, didn't make the travel. They had 8 All-Stars. It tied a league record. That broke a franchise record. And they go here amongst all the other stars, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, all these guys, Paul Skeens, everybody's out for this one. And they shine amongst all of them.
Yeah,
Like
it's
all
still
three
showing. Yeah.
starters in Bomer, Turner, and Harper get a hit while they played the first 5 or so innings. The pitchers and the relief. I mean, Strom, K's, Bobby Witt Jr. swinging. Sanchez pitched all of 32 seconds as he got 2 outs on 2 pitches. Hoffman gets the out to end the game. Like not to end the game, but in the top of the 9th.
Yeah, it
It was
showed
really
throughout the
cool to see not just them belong, but excel on a stage with all those other guys. Because we always think about like those stars, right? And if you're going to see them in the playoffs and how scary some of those names can be, right? Like, oh my God, Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, like how are they going to compete with the Dodgers? Well, you have to remember that we have some monsters of our own, and I think that's what they put on display last night.
Yeah, man, and to your point, I was actually getting it pulled up here while you were talking because you mentioned Shohei Ohtani, and there was this clip that came out of him talking after the All-Star game last night, and they were asking him like which player stood out to him out of everyone at the All-Star break, and he literally pointed to Bryce Harper. So, he went on to say that out of all the players that were there during the break, he's the guy that stood out the most to him. So I think once again, you talk about their performance in the actual game. You talk about their approach coming to the All-Star weekend, the All-Star break. Even out there with Alec Bowman, out there with the water jug, right? Like having fun with it. You just love that
School of pandering led by Bryce
exactly
Harper.
Once again, like pandering to the Philly and Delco area, man. And you just gotta love what this team is doing. And once again, it just kind of feeds into this season and the special things that are going on with this team right now, man. They're on a clear track path to what everybody in this city really, really wants. And now they can kind of refocus and start gearing up again towards that in the second half, which is what I'm excited about. But yeah, to see them amongst the stars, man, and to shine like that. Even Alec Bohm, like, if you want to say he was overachieving in the home run derby, fine. Like, it was impressive. He really put on, make Phillies fans proud in that sense. He beat out Pete Alonso.
Yeah, literally. Like the 2-time home run derby champ.
I'll take that as a W.
Who put the MLB in a hostage situation. See, this is why Pete Alonso will always be incredibly corny, and the Mets are just an atrocity to me. He put the MLB in like a hostage negotiation because obviously they wanted the 2-time champ in the home run derby. He said, no, I'm not going to compete unless I'm in the all-star game. I don't want to just be in the derby if I'm not an all-star. He ends up being elected an all-star, so he's in the derby. Meanwhile, Lindor, and I heard some rumblings that, he kind of screwed Lindor and Nimmo. They talked about it during the derby a little bit. But regardless, he goes out there and hits a low 12 home runs out of the field. So it was just pretty funny to watch. It like kind of put like when the Braves lose but the Phillies win, it just like makes it a little bit more sweeter.
Exactly.
Like that's what it did, right? Exactly. Like it was like it's already like a good time, a good night, it's fun. But like to see that guy, that organization being repped in the lowest of ways was like, that's a little, that makes it a little better. But
I do agree, man.
And I think, man, just kind of like, because again, we're at the break. We have today and tomorrow off before they head to Pittsburgh for a 3-game series and continue the second half of the season. But just seeing like right before the break, they did like some hibachi night at the Turners or whatever. And they were all there with their wives and their kids. And you hear how they talk about each other over All-Star break. You see how they're all hanging out with each other and they all have the kids there and their wives on the side of the field during the derby. And it's like, again, I'm not trying to like read too much into it. I know it's a slow time right now with the off days, but like that camaraderie that they talk about, that locker room, that togetherness, I know they've been close the last 2 years. Like we see the celebrations in the locker room. We know they're friends. We know the history between Bryce and Schwarber and Kevin Long. Like we know that they've been around each other and they're friends. But this, like, doesn't it just feel a little bit different now also? It almost feels like Christopher Sanchez is within the core. Like Matt Strom and Jeff Hoffman are within the core. It's not just Bryce and Schwarber and JT and Trey and their wives hanging out on vacation. It's the entire team is constantly friendly together, going to events, doing dinner, traveling, doing all this different shit. And like, that's the missing piece of a team that's been right here for the last 2 years.
Yeah, that interconnectivity, man. I think it is a big deal. I know, you'll look at a bunch of guys going out to dinner together and not think much of it. But like you said, just building those bonds, it builds trust too, right? Like knowing that
Correct.
your guy next to you trusts you, values the
Mhm.
connection that you guys have on the team. So I think all of that matters. And it's just great to see them doing that as we approach the latter end of the season here, where these games are going to start to matter. It's going to get a little tight at some point, right? They're 6.5 games up on the Dodgers right now in the
Yeah.
NL.
Yeah.
How many games up on the Braves right now in the NL East? I mean, they should take care of
I
business
am
there.
about
It
to
should
check.
hopefully shouldn't get tight there, but you
No,
never know, man. You never know who can get hot at
they
what
are
time.
8.5 up on the Braves.
Yeah, so hopefully you're able to keep separation from them. Um, but yeah, I think now is the time that they really need to bond together and really start to show their stuff. You're starting to get guys healthy. You should get JT back here soon. Trey obviously been on a tear. Bryce is back. Schwarber's back. Yeah, it's down to the pitching staff. I think getting them right. That you didn't have Wheeler or Suarez participate in the All-Star weekend, which is a good thing at the end of the day. If they're not feeling right. Obviously, Ranger wasn't looking great going into the
Right.
All-Star break, so you wanted to see him get a little bit of a rest. So yeah, I think the pitching staff, they should come back refreshed. That's a good sign from that. And everything else, man, just staying interconnected and building that chemistry further, because there's going to be tough times that pop up throughout the season that haven't happened yet. There's going to be tough stretches where you're going to have to lean on one another and trust one another to get things right and get things back on track. So, yeah, I think any way you can continue to build that bond throughout All-Star weekend, off the pitch, whatever the case may be, I think that it's all beneficial to this
Yeah.
team, man. Where we're trying to go, the goal is clear at this point, right after the last 2 seasons. So, yeah, just keep building it, man. But what are you looking at as we approach the second half of the season? Like, where would you kind of focus on the Phillies? Like, maybe not a weak part of the Phillies
Yeah.
or a weak link of the Phillies, but where do you think they do need to improve as we go into the latter half of the season?
Well, to
Stretch.
improve, they definitely. Here's the thing: they either need to get healthy, or they definitely need to find someone to be a cog in that fifth spot. Like you can't have every fifth day be a Michael Mercado, or who knows what Tyler Phillips can be. I don't know, but like it's batting practice every fifth day essentially. Like you lost the series to the A's, which again is no big deal to me, but you lost the series because you did not have an MLB pitcher out on the mound last Sunday afternoon. That's why you lost. Okay. So obviously you need to figure something out there, because you don't want to put that wear and tear on your bullpen, where it's a bullpen game every fifth day, like we've seen in the past, and then guys get tired come September and October and so on. And you also don't want to chalk it up as a loss one every 5 days, just automatically, right? So you have to figure something out there, whether Jesus, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but whether Taijuan Walker is available soon, I don't know how long Spencer Turnbull's supposed to be out. If you can add a very, very low end type of fifth starter just to be a placeholder for the time being, whatever it is, they have to figure that out. And again, you do have to adjust the outfield. I think they're going to. I think there's been way too much noise and smoke for them not to be a player, a pretty significant player right now, whether that is Luis Robert, whether that is Brent Rooker, whether that's Tyler, whoever it is on any range, they're going to add in the outfield, because as nice as it is to have Marsh and Rojas next to each other on given nights with their glove, and we know that Nick's been a plus defender in the field, the defense is fine. And yeah, you could argue that defense can win championships compared to years they've had in the past with like reset first base and some other and Schwarber in left and other issues they've had. But you need production from your outfield as well. You need some pop from the outfield corners. And if you're not getting that from Nick, and Marsh can't play against lefties, and Rojas is hitting 210, you have to solve something somewhere along the line. And that's where a Luis Robert, Brent Rooker, a Tyler Ward, any Brenny Rosarena, it's where any of those guys, you go out and you fix that problem, Rojas and Marsh can platoon. Marsh can be
Yeah.
your everyday guy, and Rojas is a utility on the base paths late in game defensively type of guy. However you want to develop that, but that's what you do. You also send Christian Pache down at this point. Like again, like we're getting to the latter half of the season where defense and games are going to matter a little bit more. I know they all count the same, but at the end of the day, I want a guy with Rojas's glove and Rojas's speed coming off my bench, rather than Christian Pache hitting a $183 coming off my bench. So that's what they're going to figure out. You can never have too many bullpen arms either. So I don't know if they're going to add a piece that can fill in there as well. We'll see, man. But Dombrowski's going to do something.
Yeah.
Outside of additions, I'm watching the schedule like you pointed out to me earlier, man.
Yeah.
And that's like, we know they're the best team in baseball for our money. All those people that argued teams over 500, the Phillies haven't played anybody. They had the best record of teams over 500. But you are coming out of the All-Star break and going to Pittsburgh, which, okay, that's the weakest link on the chain right now.
Yeah.
And that's potentially Paul Skeens on the road with a team that's in wildcard contention. Then you go at the Twins, home versus the number one team in the AL with the Guardians, home for the Yankees. You go across the country to a first-place team in the Seattle Mariners. Then you go down a little bit to at the Dodgers, and then down even further for 4 games and an NLCS rematch against the Diamondbacks, who aren't as bad as they were in the first month or two of the season anymore. I mean, so, dude, from July 19th to August 12th,
it
is a problem almost.
Yeah.
So I'm excited
playoff caliber
every
team.
night to be a valuable night.
Yeah. It's going to build them. And I think that's a great point. You either, it's going to make you or break you, right? And we would imagine it's going to make them with the pace that they've been playing at this season. So, it is funny you point out the schedule, man, because that is a juggernaut of a schedule. But maybe you do get one of those big additions mixed in there during that time as well. And maybe that propels you on that West Coast trip. Maybe something like that, gives you some extra juice. But I do agree with your point just about adding something in the outfield specifically from a batting standpoint, just to give yourself some extra pop, man. Like you mentioned, some of those guys that you could bring in, not only are they going to be better batters, but they can also get it out of the yard, which is just something different that you're going to get from a guy like Rojas, right? Like who's not going to work with that type of power. So. I'm excited to see what Dombrowski can do here. I'm sure that they're going to do something to shore up the bullpen and make sure everything's okay there. They're going to have to make some adjustments with the rotation there, but I'm excited to see them play against some competition. I think things can now get real. We're after the All-Star break. I think there's a point in the summer where things can just get kind of I don't want to say nonchalant because they've continued winning.
I know.
But I think from a fan
Long
standpoint, it can get a little nonchalantish and maybe not paying attention as much. Whereas now they're going to have some big competition coming into the city.
Every night.
You're talking about the Yankees, the Guardians.
Night.
Those are marquee matchups. Those are World Series-esque preview matchups that we're looking at right here in Philadelphia. So I'm excited to see what Citizens Bank Park is going to look like during those matchups.
Sold out.
And I'm excited to see what the Phillies can do against this level of competition consistently, because this is what the playoffs are going to look like at the end of the day when you're playing against playoff caliber talent. So it's an exciting time, man. I'm interested to see where the Phillies can finish, because I talked to you about this before we hopped on the stream here about where their over is on game or total games won, right? And I believe you said it was at 98 and a half.
Yep.
So 99 wins at what, minus 120, something like that?
Minus 120, yeah. Any team in the MLB to go over 101 and a half, so 102 plus wins for any team. Phillies, Guardians, Dodgers, anybody is plus 110 right now at the break. That's worth the sprinkle.
They would need 40 more wins, basically?
The Phillies, like for that. For their team total, they would need 37. I mean, it's so like you talk about the schedule. That's what the books have to be looking at, because there's no way you set their line at 90 or 91 and a half to start the year. They win 62 games in the first half, almost breaking or tying an MLB record. And you still only pushed them up 7 or 8 games from where they were to start the year. That's ridiculous. I don't care what the schedule is, that they're going to go over that.
There's 66 games left for the Phillies.
Okay.
So 37 out of 66, it's just about half or so, right?
Yeah.
40 would obviously be a little bit more than half. 37 is a little bit more than half, but it's possible, right? The 40 is a little bit more of a struggle, but to get to 99 wins, but I do think they get to 100 wins, honestly. I think that should be like a goal for the team where you're at this standpoint. I think that should be a goal for them to get to. And I think if
Scotty,
they set a goal,
being
they're going to be
honest,
able to get to it.
Because I think at this point, you're putting, not you, but like the odds makers are just putting a little too much stock in the schedule, right? Like at that point, if you're basing them to go under 100 wins still this year after winning 62 before the break, you are basically saying they're going to lose a lot of these upcoming series.
Yeah.
Because I know we said this is a gauntlet, and even after that little gauntlet, you have the Braves, you have the Royals, you have the Astros, you have the Braves again. But from September on, you have Toronto, Miami, Tampa at home, the Mets. At the Brewers is a good series. Mets again, Cubs, Nationals. I mean, so basically all of September is featuring teams, one team in the Brewers that are in the running, and all the others are basically non-playoff teams.
Yeah.
So you're putting a lot of stock in this next month that the Phillies are going to lose a lot of series and a lot.
Yeah, like they're going to lose every series to like a competitive team, right? Like, no, I just
cash that ticket, bro. I mean, I'm literally about to. I mean, here's the thing: I've never been a futures guy. Like, I just. The money's in my account.
Can't stay patient.
Friday. I'd rather just, put whatever. I've never been a huge futures guy, but you can't tell me that that's not a gift. Like it's July. It's Christmas in July, apparently, because that's a gift. And I'll be honest with you, the plus 110 for any team to go 102 wins is a gift as well.
That's the one I was looking at here.
Like you have the Phillies, you have the Guardians, you have the Dodgers could go on an incredible run when Mookie comes back. You don't know. So
the Yankees, the Orioles. I mean, that seems like the no-brainer bet, especially for plus money. Like, I think for me, it's a no-brainer because I do think the Phillies will get to that number alone. So like,
I agree.
They might get to it. The Dodgers might get we don't know at the end of the day, but I do think at least one of these teams get to that.
Right, because then like you're not resting on the Phillies' shoulders. Like, you want them to be the team to do it. They had probably the best odds with the most wins right now. But there's a lot of other great teams that could go on an 8-game win streak, and you're like, oh, there it is. Like, that's what I needed. So, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. It's like it's up until Friday. Once the games start, you can place these bets. So I got to figure out over the next 48 hours or so, 50 hours or so, if this is what I want to do with what I have to play with, because that is a long donation, man. That is a 2+ month journey waiting for something to cash. So,
and then God forbid it doesn't hit.
Right. And you got to remember, like, we're talking minus 120, plus 110. Like, there's a little juice there. It's nice. But you got to make it worth your while for this 2-month wait. Like, this is not let me throw $50 on the Phillies minus 120 win total right now so I can profit 40 come October. Like, no. Like, if I'm doing this,
you got to throw
money going on this
a good amount on it
to
make it worth it. Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. It's funny, we were talking about futures, and it made me just look at like NFL futures to see what the odds are for the Eagles here. Division winner plus 100. I do like that one.
I love it.
To make the playoffs, they're minus 200, so that's not worth it.
Not worth it. No.
Conference winner plus 700.
Wow.
The
what
Lions.
Are they giving them? What are they giving them? Like the third or fourth best odds?
Third, tied for third and fourth. So Cowboys are at plus 700.
Oh my! See, man, this is the shit. You're gonna get me started. You're gonna get me.
Lions are plus 550.
I thought, man, like that's ridiculous in itself. I mean, I get it. They went further than the Eagles last year, but I'm going to be honest with you. And you know how I feel about this team's ceiling and their quarterback.
Yeah.
I would have been more okay if you said the Green Bay Packers were tied with the Eagles. And I think that's absolutely ludicrous with Jordan Love under center. For you to just tell me that a team that just consistently underachieves in the biggest moments, who added literally nothing this entire offseason.
CeeDee Lamb's upset.
While the Eagles added everybody, they have the same odds to win the conference. That's just,
it's incredible.
I swear to God, odds makers are just like the media, just pointing the javelin right at Philly's way just to piss you off a little bit. Because there's no fucking logic to that, man. How can you take two teams from the same division? 2 years ago, we went to the Super Bowl. That year, they got knocked out, whatever they did early. Last year, we both got knocked out in the first round. They probably got knocked out in more embarrassing fashion at home in that blowout. Yeah. We had Saquon Barkley and Devin White and Bryce Huff and Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell and two new coordinators and so forth. They had nobody, lose Tony Pollard, can't pay CeeDee Lamb, can't pay Dak Prescott. Everybody's unhappy, and they have the same goddamn odds as this team.
It's insane. It really is insane to look at that and think that the Cowboys have just as good as a chance at winning the NFC as the
Well, can I tell you something? They
Eagles.
don't. Because history will tell you one simple thing, is that they don't, okay? I'm 26 years old, 26 and a half almost, and they haven't been to a conference championship game in my lifetime. So history will simply tell you the fact that they don't have the same amount of odds, the same chance that the Eagles have, just off of that alone, okay? So let's stop, okay? Listen, I think Dallas, their core is in, can Dak do it? I don't know, but CD, Micah, the defense, I get it. First of all, they lost Dan Quinn. Are they just not? They're not going to.
They lost Dan Quinn.
And Tony Pollard. You brought back Ezekiel Elliott. So I think Dallas, they have a core in place. But if they would have done anything this offseason, if they would have been the team that brought in Derrick Henry, not the Baltimore Ravens, and they wouldn't have lost Dan Quinn, and they added a wide receiver too, I would say, okay, that team has firepower. They can compete as well. But when you lose almost everybody, you have your stars unhappy, and the other team adds a lot, you can't tell me they have the same goddamn odds to win.
Is this just another dig at Jalen Hurts? Is that
dude? I don't know what it is at this point.
Is that all it could be? Is Dak that much better than Jalen Hurts?
When Dak Prescott throws 3 interceptions and a pick 6 or 2 in his home playoff game last year, what are we doing, man? Stop. That's the same thing. Dak Prescott's a top 10 quarterback. Jalen Hurts is 13th. What the fuck are we doing here?
Well, let's take a look at I just want to see MVP odds. Now, interesting enough, Jalen Hurts is actually Brock Purdy, man. I can't get over it, though. Get out of here, man. Jalen Hurts is plus 1,600 to win NFL MVP this year. Dak plus 1,700. Aaron Rodgers plus 1,600. Brock Purdy plus 1,400. He's tied with Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love.
Jordan, dude, see, I gave him a little sliver of light there, a little positivity.
Jordan Love, MVP,
but now you tell me Jordan goddamn Love has a. Stop it, man! Stop. What is happening to the sport I love?
I mean, CJ Stroud even. Plus 850. He's the third.
Listen, but I can kind of give you that. CJ Stroud performed at that level last year. They add Stephon Diggs. He's got all the playmakers in the world around him to explode this season. They have a very good chance of winning their division and making a play. I can give you even a young CJ Stroud. I can't give you Jordan Love, man.
Yeah. With their wide receiver, they have good wide receivers, right? Like they have some decent
No,
guys.
I
but
don't think they do. I'm not in that camp. I don't think they fucking do.
I think they're like above average wide receivers. Like, but that's the thing. There's no like standout wide receiver in that group. But yeah, it is interesting. You know, another one that I've really liked
Bro,
though.
and here's the cool
Back
thing.
to old Phaithful
Who?
with the Chiefs winning the AFC
Yeah.
at
Where
plus
there's that?
300, man.
Damn.
I get it. It's tough. The AFC's tough, but I mean,
Listen, man, and I know we're going off the
Patrick
rails here a little bit.
Mahomes.
We have other things to get into. We'll talk more on Turf Talk. Jordan Love had a very, very, very good year last year. Very good. Over 4,000, over 4,100 yards, 32 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Very good year last year. But I don't know. There's just something there that I don't buy into. The wide receiver, everyone wants to talk up these wide receivers, man. What are we doing? I'm not talking up Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson. And who's the other one? Jaden Reed? Is that the other one? Is that the speedster that they have in the slot? I'm not talking them up. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it.
Wicks. Yeah, it is interesting, man. That's why I wanted to take a look and just kind of see what was going on. Oh, here's what I was looking for. Wins. That's what I wanted to see. Where are the Eagles set at? Let's go down to the NFC. So looks like their line is set at 10.5. So over, under 10.5. Overs at minus 130. Unders at plus 110. So 11 wins. Yeah. How many did they have last year?
11.
11. And that was with a collapse of like unheard measures.
Ryan Johnson and Matt Patricia and Sean Desai and
the crazy part
Penny
is they
Gainwell
beat
starting
the tough teams last year for the most part, right? Like they lost to the Cowboys.
Well, they went on a trip where they went on they beat Dallas at home. They went on a thing where they beat like Miami, Dallas,
Kansas City,
and Buffalo all in a row.
Kansas City was on the road.
Yeah.
Buffalo
and Buffalo was like a comeback overtime win in the rain. So like they went on this run, and then all of a sudden went on the worst clap. And that's why I tell you. That's why I told you last year it's the worst claps I've ever seen. It's not up there. It's not, oh, what about this stretch? No. For the expectations they had, the talent they still had, what they did with one part of the schedule, and then had Drew Lock and Kyler Murray and these guys tearing up. No, see,
and got dogged out by the Niners, right? Like you can lose to the Niners, you just can't get like demolished by them.
At the link, I'd say so myself. But
so that's interesting. Over
so coming off, but here's the thing: coming off that worst claps, this is the best team in the NFC. I don't care. I'll tell you that right now today, and I'm going to talk about it all season long. They are the best team in the NFC, and they're going to show you why this upcoming season. I truly, truly believe that. So we can get into that right now, man. Let's get into training camp. 6 days away. The Eagles report on the 23rd, the same day that Paul George gives his introductory press conference as a 76er. Tyrese Maxey gets a presser for his 5-year max extension. It's going to be a hell of a day next week. We're going to be covering all of it for you guys here on DSM. But I just look at this team. I know we talked about this kind of here and there throughout the last couple of weeks, but you have two coordinators who, I know Kellen Moore's a younger guy. You have two no-nonsense coordinators. And what I mean by that is you have an old-school guy in Vic Fangio, who we've heard Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis talk about him so far, even in mini camps and OTAs and stuff, talk about just how he's business. And you have the younger guy in Kellen Moore, who, you don't think of the younger guy as all business. But when I say that, I mean like a Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay-esque. I'm not putting him
dialed in on his offense, very detail oriented.
Yes, maybe you're going to get this.
He might not call you a bitch like Vic Fangio will at practice, but he's going to put you in your place and tell you exactly what you need to do.
You have two seasoned smart, hard-nosed coordinators, which you did not have last year.
Yeah.
You had first-time coordinators in both slots, and then you brought in goddamn Matt Patricia, okay? You didn't have that last year. Jalen Hurts was injured last year. I was on him more than anybody. He has a lot to prove to me this year, but we know that knee was fucked up, dude. So you have a healthy version of Jalen Hurts, knock on wood, this season. You brought in a top 3 running back in the National Football League. You have a couple options at slot receiver. You got everybody offensively extended. You brought in Devin White. You brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. What do they do in the draft? 2 of the top 3 corners in the entire draft are here and might play for them day one. Isaiah Rodgers gets reinstated. People have hope. They trade or they sign Bryce Huff when they get rid of Hassan Reddick. Dude, this team is fucking loaded with talent. They have 2 coordinators that can finally have these guys execute the way they want them to. And you talked about the odds before. You talk about the Jalen Hurts, disrespect a little bit.
Yeah.
I promise you they're going to put teams on display this year.
Yeah, I do agree, man. And, the interesting thing with it all is that the offseason isn't even over yet. So there's a lot of veterans that are still dangling around out there. Maybe you can add an edge rusher to, kind of help out with losing Hassan Reddick, pair him with Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, and go with it about that way. Justin Simmons is still out there as a all-pro safety, right? And I know there's give or take whether or not we should bring in somebody like that for a secondary, but if they brought in Justin Simmons, we going to be mad about that?
Oh, no, let's pair Justin Simmons and C.J. Gardner-Johnson as our safeties.
I think we're going to be pretty ecstatic. And then it does give you your young guys time to be groomed, right? And the thing is, at the end of the day, there's always going to be injuries as well. So bringing in somebody like that, it's always going to be a good thing in my eyes. Even looking at it from the standpoint of your competitors, man, you talk about the Cowboys with CD Lamb, their issues that they're having with contract.
Bro.
The 49ers have just made Brandon Ayuk available for trade. Mind you, I don't know. It depends where you value Brandon Ayuk versus Deebo Samuel. For wide receiver money, Brandon Ayuk is the better wide receiver for my money. So to see them potentially on the outs with a guy like Brandon Ayuk has me excited as well. So it's not even just the Eagles adding and getting better, but you look around them and you ask yourself,
let's see Brock Purdy with one less toy. Let's subtract the toy from Brock Purdy and see
one
what
less
that
1,000-yard receiver.
Right. Let's see what that. Let's see if he can make a third option into a clear number 2 like great quarterbacks do. We'll see about that.
But no, I'm just so excited for this season, man. Like you said, the big thing is the coordinators and specifically that offensive coordinator. Just seeing what he's going to be able to do to make Jalen Hurts even more comfortable is what I'm excited about. Because I think you can get an MVP level season out of. We've already seen it before, but I'm saying you can recreate that. Maybe even have a better season than the MVP caliber season he's had before. We saw what Kellen Moore did with Dak Prescott. As much as we hate Dak Prescott, we hate the Cowboys. When Kellen Moore was there, that offense was humming.
Yep.
Not to say that it wasn't last year. I think Dak still had an MVP level performance last year. But it just shows that Kellen Moore can run an offense in that way. He excels in all the things that we were begging for last year. Getting running backs involved, getting tight ends involved. Can Dallas Goedert finally have a top 3 tight end season this year?
Hey, I'll give you top 5. Can you have a top 5?
Top 5, literally. Because he has the talent. We've seen that throughout his time in Philly. I know if you don't watch a bunch of Eagles games out there, if you're not an Eagles fan, you might not see it. Yeah. But he has the talent of those other tight ends up there, outside of the George Kittles and the Travis Kelce's, right? The elites. Yeah. But he has the talent. Motion. Oh my God.
And I'm glad you brought that up, more specifically about Kellen Moore, and we can get into Vic Fangio as well. But I was going to ask you, who with 6 days to go, who were you most excited to see? And the issue is when we're talking, offensive, play calling, everything like that, we're not going to really learn anything until the regular season starts. Because they're going to practice things. We're going to see a little bit of new things in in preseason, but you know what I mean? You know how Sirianni is.
Yeah.
And even though he might not be the play caller, that message is going to get delivered. Hey, we keep things very vanilla in the preseason. We don't want any advantage, nothing like that, right? So we're not really going to learn too much about the new look Eagles offense in training camp and all. We'll see some reports and hear some things about what they're doing. But the reason I'm most excited for that as well is, yes, like you've added Saquon Barkley, and maybe Paris Campbell can be a decent third option in the slot for you. But you had a lot of talent last year, man. You had a 1,000-yard rusher in DeAndre Swift already. Yeah. What was the issue, man? The play we taught every week, it was an issue and it never got solved. But something as simple as pre-snap motion was non-existent. They ran it the lowest in the NFL. Meanwhile, Kellen Moore's offenses run it like top 12 in the NFL, top 14 in the NFL, and he will do more than that. He just did that last year with injuries with the Chargers that they had all over the board. So Kellen Moore is going to install that. And what was the other thing they struggled with within the play calling, everything pre-snap, man? It wasn't just motion, which helps all of that. But teams watched the Eagles from 2022.
Shaka.
They adjusted. They looked at the numbers. And they looked at Jalen Hurts versus the blitz. They looked at the play calls versus the blitz. The protections versus the blitz. The Eagles and Jalen Hurts were the most blitzed team in the National Football League this year, and they were the worst against it. They didn't have an answer week in and week out. They didn't come prepared in a playoff game with it, Scotty, when you knew it was coming, and that is not on Jalen Hurts himself. Some of it is. Some of it we've talked about. Man, you don't see this. You can't check to this. You can't adjust this. But if your offensive coordinator is just going to leave you out to dry, to get rocked each and every drop back, you're in your second hitch and boom, you're getting hit. You turn it off of a bootleg and boom, there's a backer in your face. There's nothing you can do. That's going to be solved this year, Scotty.
There was nothing more annoying about watching last season, watching the offense perform last year, than seeing a team go all-out blitz consistently against our offense.
And yet,
Jalen Hurts
up in the air?
Yeah, he's just taking, 5 steps, 7-step drop backs to launch it down the field. And it's just like, man, we don't have any type of adjustment.
No counter, no nothing to it.
There's no short, DeAndre Swift is one of the best receiving running backs in the NFL. You had Nick Sirianni call him like a borderline wide receiver last year in training camp.
And he wasn't used.
Yet we see like his lowest totals as a receiving back ever in the NFL, right? Yes, he was a 1,000-yard rusher. He performed on that front. He ran the ball well, but we did not use him in the passing game. And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier, the running backs, the tight ends. These are the players that you have to get involved in that short, quick passing game that is going to be there to combat the blitz, man. You got to get it out to your playmakers and give them room to make plays.
And when we say that, we don't mean a wide receiver screen. We also don't mean a wide receiver screen to Devontae Smith or Quez Watkins. It's not.
Can we get a running back screen? Can we get a running back screen this year with
a little slip screen like they used to run at Darren Sproles or Brian Westbrook or Carell Buckholder? Anybody.
Please.
I mean, my God, man, something. So I agree that we're all looking for those new tinkers, those new adjustments in the offense.
Like as much as I'm excited for Saquon. As much as I'm excited for Saquon and like these other facets, like you're saying, it's the coaching that is what I'm most
And I'll take it a step further, man. I'll get into my next thing that I'm looking for. Again, it's going to have to do with training camp. But it's obviously more towards the regular season, so I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's always fun and attractive to see the new shiny toys. Like Saquon, no one's more excited to get Saquon Barkley in Eagles green than the guy you're looking at right now, Scotty. Get that straight right now. No one's more excited to see if Quinyon Mitchell and or Cooper DeJean can work out for this team and be Pro Bowl-esque in year one for like they had the upside to be, okay? But it all comes down, with all that said, with the new coordinator, the new toys, everything, it always comes back to who? Number one.
Yeah.
That's who it's going to come down to this year. And that's what I want to see in training camp, in the short reps in preseason. And as we slowly get into September, I want to see number one ball out, which we know he's capable of, bro. This is not me calling him out after a down year, and he better show me something or they need to fix this now. We watched this dude go mano-a-mano with one of the best ever 2 years ago and should have taken him down. Outplayed him. We know this dude is an MVP caliber quarterback. He's a Super Bowl champion type of quarterback. We know the mindset. We know the work ethic. We know everything. But he was not good last year. Was he the problem? No. But he was not a solution for them when they needed him to be at times.
Yeah.
Well, brother, you still have AJ and Smitty and Dallas. You still have, I know you lost Kelsey, you have a top 5 offensive line in football. You brought in a top 3 running back in football. Now you got the coordinator. It's very Joel Embiid-esque for me, man. When we sit here, we go through all these new rosters and all these fits and all these systems, head coaches, and if it never works, at some point we have to turn our eyes to maybe why we can't win each and every year. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Kellen Moore's not going to hold Jalen Hurts back this year.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. This is not Brian Johnson run offense. This is a professional top 10 at his craft in calling plays and setting up an offense with all of these weapons. We will be looking at Jalen
Hurts.
Yes.
Yeah. If things go south,
and I'm not saying it as a like, let's put the weight of the world on his shoulders and he's under a microscope or nothing. He's got his money. He is QB1. He is the franchise. But I need to get that back in my system because with the way last year ended and the way he looked, I need to get 2022 vision back in here.
Yeah. It's one of those things, man. We have history with Carson Wentz, and it's very recent history.
Right.
Him going out, having an MVP level season, the Eagles make the Super Bowl. Mind you, he got injured, blah, blah, blah. Nick Foles, we know. The point is he had an MVP caliber season. Then he was never able to match that season ever again in his career. And that is not what we want to see with Jalen Hurts. It's not to compare their
No, and by the way, we're not suggesting that's incoming. We're just saying.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the way people are talking about Jalen Hurts right now from the outside, like when you see these QB rankings, you hear whoever it was on TV talking about him. He's saying that executives around the league, they think that he can be 5, maybe a 6 to 13 level quarterback, but he's never going to get into that top 5 level quarterback. Mm-hmm. We've already seen him do it, but you do have to do it consistently in order to be regarded as that level of quarterback.
But let me throw this to you. Let me ask you this very quick question because I know my answer. Do they need him to be top 5?
To win a Super Bowl, no.
Exactly.
To win a Super Bowl, no. I would say top 10-ish. Yeah. Where he's at, where he's being rated right now is exactly, if he plays to that level, they can win the Super Bowl, honestly. So to your point, it doesn't even have to be top 5. The point is we know that he does have those capabilities inside of him. We just need to see them consistently. I did want to ask you this. With Jason Kelce retiring, there's a lot of talk last year about Jalen Hurts' command in the locker room, building connections, blah, 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 being a leader. Lane Johnson comes out and says Jalen Hurts already taken steps to connect with his teammates a little bit more. Do you think that a guy like Jason Kelce, I'm not like trying to turn this into a positive that he's retiring, but do you think having that voice kind of leave gives Jalen Hurts more room to become the leader of the team now?
I don't even think it just gives him the room. I think it forces him to take up that role. Right? I think that's what it does. I think let's compare it to Bryce Harper, right? Earlier in Bryce's career, when he first got to Philly, even and the Nationals, one of the best players in the world. He led by example. He was not the mentor. He was not a guy that was outspoken in the locker room. He led by example what he did on the field. At a certain point now, the next step of Bryce Harper's evolution, which he's turned into now, has become more of a voice, more of a focal leader, more of a gatherer and leader of men, right? Not just what he does on a baseball field. That's what Jalen Hurts has to do now. And I think Jalen Hurts has been more of a vocal leader even already than Bryce, that what I'm comparing early Bryce to.
Yeah.
I'm saying it was evolution. It was Bryce needing to take up that role to for the next step. Now it's Jalen has to grasp this role. Like Kelsey's and bro, you can say whatever you want there. It's different than a baseball team. It's different than a basketball team. There are a lot more bodies in a football locker room.
For sure.
You have specific groups that hang with groups, position groups that hang with position groups, defense and offense, all different sorts of things. So it's not like, oh, well, we still have BG. So BG's a leader, but BG's not going to galvanize.
He's going to be more focused towards the defensive side of things.
Mentoring younger defensive linemen, edge rushers, stuff like that. When you are quarterback number one, when you are the franchise, you have to lead these men in a specific way. And I think he will be, man. That's the one thing you can never. I mean, I know it got put into question, like you said, but the characteristics, the intangibles, are something we've really never had to question with Jalen Hurts.
Go ahead. Finish.
I was just going to add on. I do think, man. I know. I'm not trying to just bail him out from last season. I'm very excited to see him out there again, hopefully 100%, because at a certain point, we go back to the end of last year so much with this team and how it ended and how he looked, the Seattle game. Oh, I don't want to hear that he was sick. I said all those things, man.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you do have a destroyed knee and whatever else was going on with him, and they're doing the tush push 100 times and you're getting beat up and there's no answers for the blitz, bro, we watched the throws against Miami. We watched the throws against Dallas when they won. We watched the comeback against the Buffalo Bills when he put the team on his back. He didn't just forget how to be a great quarterback in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, he still had those
beat
moments.
To hell with no help. A.J. Brown goes down for the year. Dallas Goedert's out for half the year. All this stuff. At a certain point, you can't do it all, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it got to last year.
I kind of want to see him, and this is going to sound weird, but I want to see him step into that dickheadish role, in a sense, kind of like Tom Brady, if you know what I mean. Not afraid to say
not an asshole.
Not an asshole. Not a true dick.
Right.
But like
not
a Vic
cocky,
Fangio from the quarterback position.
Somewhat arrogant in a sense. I know the vibe you're talking about.
He understands the offense so well that he's telling guys what they need to do in every detail of the offense. That's where I want to see Jalen Hurts leading from this year. But I think, to your point, that's not something that he has necessarily lacked either. He's always been a guy that dives straight into the playbook. May just be the fact that he's had to learn a few different ones the last few years. But once again, you have a good teacher there in Kellen Moore. You have a great offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. And, I want to see Jalen Hurts take that step this year to just being that guy, right? No more conversations about, is he this, is he that? No, he is that guy. He is that guy to get us where we need to get to. And that's what I want to see Jalen Hurts step up and be this year, because as we pointed to several times, man, there's no excuses. There's no, Brian Johnson, rookie coordinator. There's no lack of, a third wide receiver or lack of an all-around running back. You have everything right in front of you. You just have to put it together, man.
Bro, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at their transactions this offseason, and it's outside of the big ones that stick with you, you forget some of the little things they've done this offseason. Again, we don't know that these guys are even going to make the team, how impactful they're going to be, but they went out and signed a CJ Uzoma.
Yeah.
Who has been what? A big body, pass catching type of tight end you could use for the red zone. They went out and signed John Ross in May. They went out and signed Paris Campbell. They went out and drafted Johnny Wilson. You have 3 or 4 guys that can fight for that wide receiver 3 spot for this team. They drafted Will Shipley. They did a lot to bolster the depth of this roster too.
Yeah. They've tried different things. It's going to be a fun season, man. I wanted to ask you one question, and I know we don't want to spend too much time before training camp gets started here, but if you had to look at one weak spot on the team or something that they need to improve, where would your concern be on the entire team?
I mean, it's still linebacker. No, like it has to be for me. Like I love the Devin White addition.
Yeah,
We're hopeful still for Nakobe Dean. I
Jeremiah
love the
Trotter
Jeremiah
Jr.
Trotter Jr. pick, but I like again day one. What does that look like?
Right.
They have Nolan Smith listed as a linebacker. Zach Bond's a special team kind of guy. Yeah, I mean that's it for me, really. I mean, we dreaded the secondary last year, Scotty. I don't dread the secondary at fucking all. Like they have to stay healthy. They have to let these young guys play. But brother, like you're talking about Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox, CGJ, Isaiah Rogers, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Sidney Brown, Keely Ringo, like that. Like I didn't even like James Bradbury's all the way down here.
That's my only concern is if they try to force the Bradbury thing. You don't have to.
No, I don't think there's any way. Well, and here's the thing, man, right? So, I don't think Vic Fangio is going to be that kind of guy, that kind of coach, that kind of coordinator. But I think it's very similar to me when it comes to the Saquon edition. A lot of people talk about, well, are they going to use them like they need to or like they should, right? Because vote a committee and so on, right? Howie Roseman doesn't pay running backs. Yeah. Howie Roseman's not giving a running back 3 years, $38 million, and not having him be used correctly. There was a conversation. Yeah. There are going to be conversations. He is going to get the ball. He's going to be involved. Same thing when it comes to this draft class, rounds 1 and 2. Howie Roseman does not draft cornerbacks highly. He took his first-round pick and drafted the best in the draft as a steal. He then traded up double-digit spots to go get the other guy in the early second round. There's no way those dudes are not on the field day one fighting for a starting role and depth roles as well.
I do agree. I do agree from a logical standpoint. That is the way it should be. I might just be like hampered by Sixers thought, Sixers training as far as the way they handle things according to money, right? Tobias Harris starts because he makes the most money on the team. That's what has to happen. Like, that's where that train of thought comes from, I believe, because you have money invested in Bradbury. Do they force it down your throat? But
I don't think so, man.
There's just no reason that you would do that. Devin White, interesting. I do think from a standpoint of our casual fan base, I think does overrate Devin White to an extent, right? Like,
probably
he's not coming in and fixing the linebacker unit, but he could be an upgrade to anything that we've had.
Oh no, I'll tell you right now that he is going to be an upgrade. I think Devin White is still a very, very good linebacker. I think he's a kind of game wrecker in a sense, meaning he's going to lay the wood to somebody at some point. He's going to get a big sack in a big moment, shooting a hole. He's going to deflect a pass over the middle. He's going to be a game wrecker in that sense. So I do agree with you. I think there are people that overrate him and what he's going to bring to the table at this point of his career. I also think there are a lot of people that like try to look at like advanced stats somehow at the linebacker position. And talk about how he's no help in this and he can't do this and da-da-da-da. Miss me with that, man. I mean, just go back to the playoff game where Jalen and this offense struggled. Who was constantly in the face of our quarterback? Number 45. Or was he 54? Whatever. I think he was 45.
He was 45. Yeah, he was 45.
He's constantly in our face, constantly making a play. Had an interception, his rookie year. Like, man, Devin White.
He's had some monster sack seasons, too. He had like 9 in 2020, 5.5 in 22. If he can give you any production from that standpoint, like you said, blowing up plays. I mean, because that as I asked you the question of my concern going into the season, honestly, is around the pass rush. And the only reason I say that is because I think the pass rush is just more important than linebackers in general. You know what I mean? Like linebackers, if you have a great pass rush, your linebackers don't really matter
Yeah.
at the end of the day. You can have average linebackers back there. And I know we have Josh Sweat. I know we brought in Bryce Huff. You lose Hassan Reddick. It's not even the losing Hassan Reddick point. Even with Hassan Reddick, we watched this pass rush become stale at the end of last season. So I'm looking for opportunities of what's going to make that different. I'm hoping Jalen Carter can take a step. Maybe Devin White can add. Nolan Smith, maybe he can step up this year. Maybe Josh Sweat gets a little bit more consistent. Bryce Huff hopefully shows up why we signed him.
I think on the defensive end, I've spoken more about the talent, the players than the coordinator than I did with offense.
Yeah.
But hearing I've seen fucking Schefter say this 4 times already on the Fanatic about Fangio and how he will calm everyone's nerves and that's another thing. Right? We could sit here and we've talked about it before. And it's, again, there is in the back of your mind, it's like, well, weren't those guys from the Vic Fangio tree? So what is the tree exactly? Right?
Yeah.
It's different, man. We saw him.
Yeah.
We've seen him do some things with a Broncos and Dolphins defense. Okay. That maybe, now I don't know if they have as much talent as the Eagles. The Broncos, maybe. The Dolphins, I'd say no, right? I know they went out and got Jalen Ramsey. They had Xavier Howard with them. But
they were on paper, the names, but you have to question if those names are somewhat washed up.
Correct.
There was a lot of that going on.
I look at this and I go, man, that pass rush was bad. But how much of it, just like the offense, was on the pass rush and how much of it was the overall scheme? But that's not just because of the pass rush scheme. It's because of the back
corners.
end.
Yeah. You have your corners 10 yards off the ball. You're not going to be able to get a pass rush.
And I'll continue to say it this year. And in week 1, if I see a difference, you and I are going to pop a bottle of champagne on the next pregame show or the next Phaithful Fanatic show that week, because God damn it, it's the most important thing I'm looking for. I don't care if you have TJ Watt and Jalen Carter and Myles Garrett and Max Crosby on your goddamn line of scrimmage. If your corners and safeties and secondary are 9 yards off the ball, and the game plan is to just pick you apart, no defensive front is getting any sense of pressure.
Yeah.
So that's the difference to me, man. Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay, CJ Gardner-Johnson in the slot. I want to see more man-to-man. I want to see more press coverage. I want to see more physicality at the line of scrimmage. And you do that, and then that allows these two to get an extra second and a half or 2 seconds to get to the quarterback, which is all they need at that point.
Yeah, man. And, just as it was when you said physicality, because it's a mindset to an extent, right? And it's it's the 49ers coming in and making a circle
and
around James Bradbury and nobody doing anything about it, right? And I think there's 2 things that we've added that change that identity. One is the Vic Fangio, because your defense is going to take on the personality of its coordinator, and that is Vic Fangio. He's a physical, he's an aggressive guy. He's old school. And the other thing is CJ Gardner-Johnson, man. Somebody that is not going to let, Darius Slay get bitched or whatever the case may be. His rookie corners, he's not going to leave them out there by themselves alone to get, beat up by another team. There's a guy there now that is going to get in the face of the opposition and let them know what's up. And that's something this team was missing, man. Like Kevin Byard, he could have been as good as whatever, right? He may have been good last year. We wouldn't know because he doesn't let you know when he does something good. CGJ will let you know. He'll let the other team know, and he'll let the fans. It doesn't stop with him, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's something you saw with the Detroit Lions defense last year. They weren't like this defense that was like all pros all around and just so talented and developed. No, they had leadership. They had proper guys in that locker room that held them up and allowed them and led them to play physical and bang heads. And that's what this team needed, man. So I think just from an identity standpoint for the defense, Fangio and then CJ Gardner-Johnson back as a leader is going to be huge for him, man.
No, I agree. And I've said this to you before we move on here, man. And obviously we have a Friday show and then next week training camp's coming. So we're going to
Yes,
talk
sir.
more specific camp like things, camp battles, positions, storylines, day-to-day news, all the clips that come out, the tweets that come out from practices we'll be getting into over the dog days of summer. But I said this when they got drafted. I said it a few weeks ago. I'm going to say it one last time as we get 6 days away from camp.
Yeah.
Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Do not put the fucking training wheels on them. Do not do it. You took them as high as you did for a reason.
Yeah.
They were as highly ranked and sought after for a reason.
Yeah.
They are day one plug and play type of guys. Now, I get it. You have a deep in secondary now. You have Slay's going to start. Maybe Mitchell starts across from him. Where do you play DeJean? Is he kind of a depth piece? Maybe he plays safety over Blankenship. Maybe he gets more run in the slot. And if Maddox isn't always healthy, maybe he's just a guy. Maybe they run more nickel and stuff like that. I don't know. But you watch it year in and year out with other organizations, and I'm tired of us always feeling like we have to keep the training wheels on. Now, historically, we've drafted in positions where depth is needed, right? Defensive line, defensive tackles, offensive linemen that are going to grow under Kelsey. So I understand that. But now when you go out to a position as badly as you need it as corner, okay, Pat Surtain, Sauce Gardner, when they came into the league, Marshawn Lattimore and Marlon Humphrey. You watch Kyle Hamilton in the secondary. Yeah. All these guys, they come in year one, and they are day one starters and impact players and Pro Bowlers. Let these two show you that. Let them be big pieces on this defense, man. Do not limit them. Do not start Slay and fucking Keely Ringo because you want them to learn and grow. No. These two need to be on the field day one starting, and one of them starting and another playing a lot. Okay, that's the deal.
I think the big thing for me with the secondary is, once again, just not seeing Bradbury out there. Like, there's just no reason that he should be on the field. And
I agree, man. But at the same point, like Josh Jobe and I'm good. Like, I'm good now. I don't need.
I like Keely Rango, so I'm not throwing him in with that group of like non-talented players. Like,
I'm not saying that.
Ideal for me is if you are able to interchange these guys and there's no drop off. So if you start Quinyon Mitchell and he's tired or whatever, maybe he takes a couple snaps and they take him downfield a couple times in a row, you bring Keely Ringo in and he's fine, right? Like that's what I want to see is just the trust. Like that's what you're talking about, is trusting these players no matter what the moment is. Like, we don't need to wait until we're down 20 or up 20 to take the training wheels off of these first-round draft picks, right? And to your point, I do agree, because at the end of the day, Quinyon Mitchell, the pedigree, is higher than Keely Ringo. Keely Ringo is a 4th, 5th-round pick at the end of the day. Quinyon Mitchell's a top 20, top 25 pick in the NFL draft.
The number one corner.
So when you look at it from that standpoint, I do agree with you. You go with the pedigree, you take the training wheels off immediately. Quinyon Mitchell isn't a guy that goes from where what school was he drafted from again? It's slipping my mind.
It's funny enough because I made a
Toledo.
joke. I made a joke.
Toledo. I didn't want to say it because you made that joke earlier, and I thought that would be very ironic. But it was Toledo. And you remember the story about him being offered from Nick Saban to come to Alabama and play, right? So this kid has the pedigree. Why not just go out there and throw him out there, take the training wheels off? I guess what I'm just saying, I am excited to have like the Keely Ringos, the Isaiah Rodgers, even the Sidney Browns.
1,000% with you. 1,000% with you. Because those guys that got experience last year, that showed that they can play. They're not the best players, but they can play at this level. They're now down here on the totem pole.
Where they belong.
Where they're depth pieces. If there's injuries, just whatever, they're here. And now the stars come up here. That's what I'm trying to say when it comes to DeJean and Mitchell, is you need to let them be stars, because these two can help you be a top 10 defense right now and can win you football games with big time plays.
I have seen people say, like, you should start Keely Ringo because he had a year of
Oh
experience.
my God.
No,
See, that
you
is
don't start
exactly the
him because
mindset
of
that I
that,
want to
right?
knock out of the conversation.
Yeah. There's
That
no,
is
like,
not, no,
status established here. It's you go out there and show it
no,
in camp. Whoever's winning those camp
God,
battles
no.
gets the starting position, and that's the way it should be ultimately. So,
1000%, bro. I'm
you know,
gonna
like
tell
if
you this.
Darius Slay's coming out looking slow, you do what you got
Yeah,
to do, man. Like you
yeah.
got to
Listen,
make tough
I'm
decisions.
gonna tell
I'm
you
not
this,
saying
man.
that's going to happen, but
If you're kind of deep at corner right now, and you're trying to get DeJean on the field, because I think that's what Fangio is going to do. I think he's just going to find, if you can play, he's going to
get him on the
find
field.
how to play you. I think that's going
Yeah,
to, if they have to put, if they have three corners out at all times or a fourth corner, something, I think he's going to find ways to get DeJean out
yeah,
there because he can be used as such a
yeah.
hybrid, man, a safety, a corner, like a
We haven't
down
even
in the
talked
box
about.
kind of guy. Like I'm telling you this, man, if they tinker with him throughout camp and he's outperforming Reed Blankenship all fucking camp, Cooper DeJean's my starting safety next to CG Gardner Johnson. Like that's the bottom line. Like if he is outperforming Reed Blankenship at safety,
That's what I
he
was
is
going to ask
starting
you
at safety.
because we haven't even mentioned Reed Blankenship in
No,
this
like Reed
conversation.
Blankenship should
He's
not
a
be
solid
etched in
player.
stone that he is
Yeah,
a starter on this team. And yes,
I
it's
agree.
this too, man. You have two high profile guys, that were highly sought after. Two should have been first round picks from one from a big program like Iowa. You don't baby them. You don't limit them. You don't do that to them, right? Like
Yeah,
Jalen Carter was a
we
big
didn't
piece of the
draft him to do
rotation
that
last year.
either.
Guess what? Jalen Carter needs to take another step this year in terms of playing time because he's that fucking dominant.
Yeah,
Now,
I think that's why Fletcher, felt comfortable taking a step down and retiring,
right.
honestly, because he knew what was in that room with Jordan Davis, too. He's got to take a step as well, man, get in shape and be able to be a three-down defensive tackle. He's got to be on the field,
Yep.
man. Milton Williams. I mean, yeah, there's plenty of guys. We can keep going down the entire roster. We'll get into it as training camp comes out, but there should be a lot of heated competitions in training camp, man. A lot of battles that are going to be sorted out, and I'm hoping that these rookies can come out on top and earn some starting positions because that's what the pedigree, that's what the draft profile tells us they should be able to do. So I'm excited for this team, man. I'm excited for football season, honestly. We're in the dog days
So
of summer,
close,
and I'm
bro.
getting excited about
It's
it.
so close. The Eagles open up their season on a Friday night in Brazil this year. It's going to be different and
Against Jordan Love of all.
yeah, against someone I am picking a fight with all offseason long. So I'm going to need Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean out there to help that secondary against this MVP caliber quarterback, man. I'll tell you that. But the last thing, man, the last Eagles thing, I know we're an hour and 20 in this thing. I don't know if you have to get off in a minute or so.
Good, man. Talk some Sixers after this for a little.
You sent me the rankings for wide receivers because obviously on Monday we discussed Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and their rankings amongst NFL execs and all. And the wide receiver rankings were released. However, yesterday an Eagles account, which I thought had a pretty good following, tweeted out an ESPN graphic and tweeted out that A.J. Brown was the second ranked wide receiver of their top 10. So you and I were like, oh, like that's not like, there we go. And then you text me this morning, and where is he actually ranked on this list?
So he is actually sixth on the ESPN list.
It's probably right around. I have him 4 or 5, probably. I'd have to think about it a little harder.
He is ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown. So.
Good. That's good to know. Who is ahead of A.J. Brown, though? Let me guess. Let me guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jettas.
Yeah, number 1.
Tyreek.
Number 2.
Jamar Chase.
Number 3.
I'm going to say Devontae Adams.
He's number 5.
So I'm missing 4.
Yeah.
Let me guess. They put CeeDee Lamb 4.
Yeah. CeeDee Lamb, he had a hell of a season last year. Like, you can't take that away from him. Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think I can like argue like AJ Brown over Devontae Adams. Like
Right.
I can't like argue that. Although age and everything accounted for, I
Mhm.
probably might go AJ Brown. But I'm biased at the end of the
Right.
day. I'm gonna say I'm gonna
I
take
think
AJ Brown
it's
over a lot of
kind of
guys.
way. I think AJ Brown can be ranked anywhere from 4 to 6. I think that's what he is.
Yeah,
And you know, I do believe that Jettis and Tyreek are 1 and 2, how whichever way you put them.
yeah.
Dude, I still love Devontae Adams. Like, if he actually had a quarterback, like I'm seeing the clips from that receiver show on Netflix,
Fair.
and I'm like, man, bro, like if he goes to the Jets, like people are rumoring, like that would just be so fun, like just to watch from a football perspective again. Um,
It's just that he's 31. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I'm looking at AJ. What's AJ? He is 26, so he's got
right,
5 years.
right. There's a big
Does he
difference.
take another step this year? Is he
Right,
still like improving in his
right.
prime? That's like the question mark. But like you said, it's not like we can sit here and definitively like
No,
put AJ Brown over him. CD Lamb is interesting. The CD Lamb thing is like for me when we have Smitty opposite of AJ,
yeah,
AJ just doesn't get those targets.
right,
So
right.
I don't know with that. Jamar Chase, he's so young. He's 24. He's so dynamic in the way he plays. It's really hard to
Yeah.
argue AJ over him. And like you said, 1 and 2 are no brainers. After AJ, you have Amon Ra at
Okay.
7. We have
Cooper
Mike
Cup.
Evans. No, Mike Evans at 8. Stephon Diggs at 9. And Brandon Ayuk at number 10.
Okay. See now,
Cooper
now
Kupp
I
is an honorable mention, number 1.
now we're getting a little far ahead of ourselves. I think Brandon Ayuk, like you, he is wide receiver 1 for the 49ers. Well, would have been
He's
wide
a
receiver
great
1.
wide receiver.
He's a
Yeah.
very good wide receiver. I do not think Brandon Ayuk is a top 10 wide receiver in the National Football
Stephon
League.
Diggs, man.
I can still get behind it because I just don't know that there was because I think last year we probably had him top 5 still, just in terms of like pure wide receiver, route runner,
Yeah.
everything. And I don't think you can just drop him out of the top 10 because of a
But
down
like
year.
compared to Cooper Kupp is what I'm asking. Like,
Right. Well,
Cooper Kupp
yeah,
or
that's
Stephon
true. I would
Diggs?
probably take Cooper Cup. Let me tell you this though.
I would drop Ayuk off of that top
I
10
agree.
list. To
I
your
agree.
point.
I love Mike Evans being in the top 10. Mike Evans,
Respect.
you know, first
Yeah.
of all, how old is Mike Evans at this point? Like we talked about Devontae Adams' age. Mike Evans, he might still be in his late 20s.
30. He's
So he's
30.
30, he's right around there. Mike
Yeah.
Evans just doesn't get the respect that he should anymore, dude.
I agree. Yeah. Playing with Baker Mayfield last year and
Yeah.
still putting up those numbers.
Like Mike, we say this every year when we do our
impressive.
rankings. I think he's always top 10 for us the last 3. This is going to be season 3 of Turf Talk. I think he's been top 10 when we do our position rankings for wide receivers. He like Mike Evans is just like your prototype. Like, is he not? Like, he is. If you built a wide receiver from scratch, you might like
Video
Tyreek
game.
speed. Like, if you want to do it that way, sure. But you look at size, athleticism, footwork, excuse me, hands, everything. Mike Evans is like your prototypical stud wide receiver.
Man, I just went back to AJ. I do agree with what you said about Mike Evans, by the way. I think he's just like that video game-esque like wide receiver that you would, like a creative player. The AJ Brown thing, his highest ranking was 3. His lowest ranking was out of the top 10.
See
so
now, but
somebody
this
out
is
there
what
thinks he's
you
not
need.
a top 10 receiver.
Oh my God, you need your votes revoked. You're not allowed to anymore. Like what in what fucking world, man? Because and I know we'll never get them. I know we'll never get like that specific person's rankings. It's just like I would love to know what that person's rankings were.
Like the reasoning behind it too.
Not even like I just want to see who is ahead of them.
Where are they from?
Top 10, everything. Like, oh my God.
So the honorable mentions, just to be clear, were Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Nico Collins, Amari Cooper, and DJ Moore.
Nico Collins, I was waiting for. I'm glad Amari Cooper's in that conversation because I think he's still a very good wide receiver.
Still up there. DJ Moore?
I can't. DJ Moore might be a little high. I can't really what like I mean, I know it was 1 year, but we know how these people love their 1 year studs. Where's Puka? Is Puka anywhere near that list?
Puka. Yeah, Puka got some votes. So these are the guys that also receive votes, but not enough
Okay.
to be honorable mentions.
Okay.
DK Metcalf,
All right.
Terry McLaurin,
Okay.
Calvin Ridley, T. Higgins,
Okay.
Puka Nakua, George Pickens, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman Jr., DeAndre Hopkins, and Cortland Sutton.
Wow.
How the fuck did he get a vote?
Yeah, that is crazy. But how
He's a decent
the
receiver.
studs have fallen, man. See,
Yeah,
this is where DeAndre Hopkins. This is more of a turf talk conversation. This is where DeAndre Hopkins fucked up by going to the Tennessee Titans.
No quarterback.
If he would have went even anywhere else, bro, like I get New England didn't have a quarterback last year, but like you're just in that picture, right? Like you're in one of the greatest organizations. Like, I don't know. Like there's just ways he could have remained
kind of
somewhat.
ruined his brand.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I know what you mean. Like his reputation.
Yeah.
It's just...
Nico Collins was the one I was waiting to hear, man. Like, and I got to tell you, again, we're getting very off topic here. I just want to watch the Houston Texans play football. Like, they are like the team that I will like root for outside of the Eagles. Nothing crazy, but like betting wise, I'm going to be all over them if I can this year.
Yeah.
Like, I loved what
they're
they
the
did
fun.
last year.
They are a fun team.
Yeah.
I mean, CJ Stroud's really good. They're going to have Stephon Diggs there, which should
they brought in Joe Mixon.
Yeah, they're going to be a fun team. It's just going to be one of those things when they start getting crowned too early. That might be when things turn the corner. But no, I do agree. They're a fun team to look out for. Nico Collins last year, 1,297 yards. So, yeah, he's like that. That's a fair point as well. Because you can argue, like I'm biased, obviously. You can argue Devontae Smith, top 10 wide receiver. Like, you can argue it.
Right.
You can argue it. I'm not saying he is.
Right.
Jalen Waddle, too. He fits in that combo. Like,
for me, I have clear, like, tiers. Like, so again, not a conversation really for this, but my tiers are kind of like the top, like, 10, kind of like top 10 almost. Like, I mean, I know, like, you could say, oh, like, Jettas and Tyreek are in their own tier. But when so star receivers that aren't like, what star receivers to me would be your Jettas, Tyreek, Devontae, CD, AJ, Cooper Kupp. I'll keep Diggs in the conversation. And Mike Evans, right?
Yeah.
If I'm forgetting anybody, excuse me. But like those like 8 or 9 are my star receivers. Then my tier 2 is like the Smitties, the Garrett Wilsons, the Ayuks, the T. Higgins. Like I kind of group those guys together there. And then we get to a range where, tier 3 is where we get to like the Courtlands of the world.
Yeah. I find the DK Metcalf thing interesting.
I think he's in that second tier for me. I think he's right in that Smitty tier.
Because I do believe I'm wondering if I had him top. I'm gonna have to go look at my notes and stuff from last season because I'm wondering if I had DK in my top 10 going into last year.
Yeah, we might have, but the only reason we would do that is some of the younger guys we didn't want to put in there yet, right? Like we didn't well, first of all, we didn't have Nico Collins in there. I can tell you that, right? I don't think we wanted to say like Garrett Wilson and those guys were in that conversation yet. So
I'm not sure if Amon-Ra was even in.
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, that is a name I forgot. He's in my tier 1 type of
elite.
Guy as well.
Yeah. He's elite.
But all right, man. Got off the trail a little bit.
We're getting close to NFL season. It's
let's wrap it up with some Sixers talk. It's gonna be relatively quick here.
Yes.
Gary Trent Jr. signs a 1-year deal with the Bucks. Kills my hopes and dreams of the perfect
6'5" shooting combo guard.
Yeah, of the Sixers offseason, man. It would have just put all the icing and sprinkles and cherries all over the top of this goddamn cake. But unfortunately, he goes to one of our rivals, Joins Giannis and Dame in Milwaukee and Glenn Rivers, as we know, as Martian pointed out in the beginning of the show. Sucks, obviously. And then we saw a campaign go to the Knicks 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
We kind of thought, okay, well, the Knicks were that other team rumored with the Sixers. Maybe that takes them out of the running. They don't have much of a need for that guard position anymore. So, maybe he's coming here. And then you see the tweet from Woj. I'm reading it. And then it says Bucks. And I'm like, that hurts. Listen, I think it's a good move for Milwaukee. I think it's a perfect fit. I actually think it's a really good spot for Gary Trent Jr. to revitalize his market and
probably get even more playing time there.
Yeah. Oh, I think he would get way more than he would in Philly or New York.
Yeah.
So, well, it is Glenn Rivers, but still, he loves his vets though, so he probably will play 33 minutes a game. I think it's a good fit for them. I also think it brings Milwaukee back because, Milwaukee, we kind of have pushed to the side because of the injuries as well last year, and they weren't, they got knocked out by Indiana in round 1. No Giannis, Dame, Bobby Portis, they're still there, man. And if they fill out the edges of their roster, they're still going to be a team that's top 4 in the East, top 5 in the East, along with us and the others. So that's one part of it. The other part of the conversation is, where do the Sixers go from here? Who can they target realistically? Because I know people are looking at the guard market and they're like, oh, Tyus Jones is still available. They're not fucking affording Tyus Jones. He wants to start. He doesn't care where he plays.
He's not going to start here
and
either.
B, he's not signing for a fucking vet minimum.
No.
So Tyus Jones is out of the running in those guard spots. And now you're getting down to, I don't think Spencer Dinwiddie is going to take a vet minimum to come here in a lesser role, to be honest with you, man. And I'm not even sure. Is that the guy? I mean, I guess, right, as a scoring guard off the bench, we wouldn't hate it. But I don't know that that's a guy we're clamoring for.
The shooting.
Right.
The shooting is what we're. I do think Spencer Dinwiddie will only get a veteran minimum.
You think so?
In this market. I do think so, man. He didn't look great. Who was it that he even played for? Was it the Lakers and the Mavs last year? Something like that. He's been all over the place lately. But it's just that shooting or lack thereof with him that would worry me with Dinwiddie. Lonnie Walker is a guy that keeps popping up. He can shoot the 3 ball.
Yeah.
Luke Kennard's still out there, shoots 45% from 3. You got Markelle Fultz out there. Who else? You got the Devontae Graham, Landry Shamet.
I'd be okay with it. I'd be okay with Markelle Fultz coming back, especially on the minimum.
Brings a little bit of size to the guard spot as well. You got the Wes Matthews. Apparently, Danny Green wants to make a return.
I'm okay on both of those.
I think for me, man, who I would look at, who I would want the most left, who's left over here is probably a guy like Lonnie Walker, who's athletic. He can shoot the 3.
Well,
Luke
let me
Kennard
ask you this.
Would be a dream, honestly.
Let me ask you this: with these guys now gone, and Gary Trent Jr. and what's left, does that force them to pivot? You got Kyle Lowry as a guard on the minimum. You have Eric Gordon. Does that force them to pivot now to a more wing/power forward signing instead of those guards we were focusing on?
I do think it could, man. I know there's been rumblings of Rocco again. You got Doug McDermott's out there. Isaac Okoro, he's a restricted free agent. He's younger, though. I don't think that you're going to get him for a minimum. You still got the Marcus Morris out there. It's obvious, we would take it, but you would like something a little bit better, right?
Reggie Bullock apparently is still a free agent.
He is. Gordon Hayward, I know TR hated that idea the other day, but the more I look at Gordon Hayward, man, and what he did last year, the more I'm open to it. 41% from 3, ended up averaging, 9.8 points per game, but he averaged 15 when he was getting run with the Hornets.
Right.
Just in a minimum role, as a playmaker off the bench, whatever you want him to do. I feel like he can do a little bit of everything, but I think there are options out there. The Reggie Bullocks, there's different options outside of a Rocco or a Marcus Morris that you can try. And I would just like to try something new from that standpoint. So, I tend to agree with you. I think they could switch, lanes and maybe go after more of a wing or a forward type of fit. Because you do have Jared McCain. At the end of the day, you have him in that guard spot. He finally had his best game of Summer League last night. Had 21 points. He went 9 for 9 from the free throw line. Had a few 3-pointers. Had 7 or 8 rebounds last night. So you have him there to kind of develop and become that guy, along with Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, those guys that are going to be the reserves. So I could see them kind of pivoting and just maybe letting Jared McCain be the guy that grows in the roster and hopefully becomes.
It's funny. I saw
Gary Trent Jr. type.
I saw Isaac Okoye's name come up on this list, but then I looked over and he's a restricted free agent. So I was like,
yeah, he's interesting because he's young, he's athletic, he is like a 3-and-D type of guy, but I just think him being restricted, you're gonna have to give him a decent.
The issue I have, man, if you are going to pivot to a Marcus Morris type of reunion, I'm not against it. Even a Rocco at that point. For me, it's like we love the starting lineup. I love I like the Drummond signing, the Lowry signing, the Gordon. Like I'm with it all. I love the McCain pick. By the way, it's McCain, not McCann, whoever that goddamn announcer was that just kept saying it over and over.
How do you mess that up?
I know, dude. I just look. I mean, then they did bring back KJ Martin technically still, so that is another guy you have on your bench if they and Ricky and they have Ricky. I don't know. I guess the way I'm looking at it is I need to stop shutting out guys like KJ Martin and Ricky Council from this rotation because in my mind I'm still looking for that last guy that's going to play, and maybe that's just not the case. Maybe those other two are going to get time, and this last little addition is going to be a depth piece where if someone goes down. They can, like Marcus Morris, if the backup goes down, he can then be the backup for a game or two. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I was kind of viewing it as, what's that next piece we're going to get that can help contribute? Because basically a Gary Trent Jr. would be contributing. If you traded for DFS, he would be contributing.
Yeah.
Whereas that might not just be in the cards anymore. So we'll see. We'll see how this all season ends, and what they continue to do,
man. I saw the very early power rankings for the NBA on ESPN here, and the Sixers are currently 6th in the NBA power rankings. So it's Sixers at 6, Mavericks at 5, Knicks at 4, Timberwolves at 3, Oklahoma City at 2, and Boston at 1.
All right. So my wrap up thoughts here. Here are my wrap-up thoughts for this show.
I knew that one would intrigue you, man.
The Celtics, obviously, champs. They're one. Duh.
Yeah.
OKC.
Second favorites to win the championship.
You're getting a little too high for me at that point. But they were the one seed last year. They traded for Caruso. It's a good addition. All right, whatever.
Isaiah Hartenstein. Yeah, they made some good moves for sure. They've gotten better.
The Dallas Mavericks, I'm not going to argue that they should be ahead of the Sixers. They just went to the NBA Finals. Okay, I'm not going to argue that. But I would like to ask a very simple question. How in the blue hell did the New York Knicks surpass a team that just went to the NBA Finals for this upcoming projection? That would be like the Eagles or the 49ers or the Lions going to the Super Bowl, and then the very next year, this Cowboys team being ranked ahead of them in upcoming power rankings. That's what it's like for me.
It isn't unimaginable, but I do.
I know they added Mikal Bridges. I know they added Mikal Bridges. I get it. They were a second-round exit. The same thing people talk about the Sixers and Embiid not getting past. The Knicks still have not been beyond the same point. And now all of a sudden they're ranked ahead of a team that just went to the NBA Finals in the Western Conference. Yeah. That's kind of crazy to me. So yeah, that's the only little thing I want to throw out there. That's but
we're actually above the Denver Nuggets though. Interesting enough.
All right. But it's funny, man. Those might be the power rankings, but I believe the Sixers and the Nuggets have the second best odds to win the title.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just ESPN, so. the odds favor the Sixers a little bit more. But I do agree with you, man. Like the Knicks, they're the ultimate hype train this season. Going in, maybe the Sixers are to others, but the Knicks, for my money, are the ultimate hype train that
Yeah.
it's almost to the point where they could only underachieve for the hype that they're receiving. Like, so based on this, they're the number 2 seed in the East.
Right.
Right? Like,
Bro, you know
I
what's
think they're a
crazy?
top 4 seed. I think they're a top 4. I think it'll be the Sixers, the Knicks, and the Bucks like competing for those top 4 slots behind the Celtics. But
So for this upcoming year, I have it right here. This is a little outrageous, all right, because I know the Boston Celtics are plus 295 to repeat. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's a little fucking outrageous.
yeah,
Plus 295. The next closest is plus
the way
800.
they went.
But okay. So they're plus 295, and then the Thunder are plus 800, and then the Sixers and Nuggets are both plus 850. The Knicks are plus 950. T-Wolves, Mavericks plus 1,000. Bucks plus 1,200. Of course, they throw the Lakers in here at plus 3,000. Wow,
Ronnie's
man.
game, the difference
So
maker there.
I know we're about to wrap up, but I just want to throw this out there. They have the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Miami Heat, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Orlando Magic, the Indiana Pacers, the Warriors, the Suns, the Lakers. They have all these teams at higher odds than the Los Angeles Clippers to win the NBA title this year.
Incredible.
Which is just funny, you know what I mean? Because remember how Clippers fans were saying, you guys are about to get a nice slap in a taste of reality when it comes to the playoffs. Meanwhile,
some Clippers fans think they got better.
Yes.
So delusion kicks in on all aspects, but great show, my man. Hour and 41. Wow.
There we go. We'll go for 2 hours one morning, I'm sure, when it gets
Wednesday in the middle of summer.
But with that said, guys, if you are new to the channel, if you're watching right now on Twitter, if you're going to be watching in replay version, make sure to do us a favor. We can't see your comments if you're trying to comment on Twitter. For whatever reason, StreamYard won't pull them up for us here on the screen. So if you want to be interactive, if you like the content, if you just want to help us out, if you want to support us, if you like Philly sports, make sure to check out the YouTube link specifically and subscribe to the channel. It is the best spot, like I said, for you to be interactive, and it helps us out greatly on our goal to our first 200 subs on the newer channel. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you Friday morning.
Yes, sir. Peace, everybody. Happy hump day.